Hello, this is Alex Calvo Garcia. You're listening to the Iron Hour podcast.
Hello, and thanks for joining us once again on the latest episode of the Iron Hour podcast. I'm your host, Barra. I'm joined by three of my usual panelists this evening. I've got Marco, Max, and Gareth. We'll get round them as soon as we can. A huge thank you to our sponsors. That's The Hole in the Wand, AC Videography and Photography, No Film, and of course, the OG sponsors, Best Blanks Wholesale. We on the Iron Hour podcast would like to send our best wishes to Archie Harris and our very own Jéan Belehouan on this episode, of course, coming in the week of that collision at Eastleigh on Tuesday night. We'll, of course, discuss that on this episode, but we just wanted to kick off by sending them both our best wishes. Okay, so it's an action-packed episode coming up tonight. We will, of course, look at the game at Eastleigh. We'll preview the game at home to Wealdstone on Saturday. A few other things to talk about, including the Unity Day. And of course, at the back end, Marco will give our usual FPL update. Speaking of Marco, he's the first panelist this week. How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. Bit of a weird one on Tuesday night, but obviously we're going to come on to that. But it was a long drive down there and back. But yeah, no, I'm good. Looking forward to Saturday.
And Max Bell, how are you doing today?
Yeah, not so bad. Like Marco says, looking forward to Saturday, and like you said in the intro there, just relieved at the positive news we've had about Harris and Belehouan in the last couple of days. Just hope they keep making strides in the next couple of weeks. I imagine, fingers crossed from both.
Of course, that's a sentiment echoed by everyone here on the Iron Hour podcast. We're also joined today by Gareth Holden, or as he's otherwise known, Iron Army, and I think we've actually caught him on one of his working days following 8 days off.
I've definitely been at work today. I'm off tomorrow, though. Good news. I'm back at work on Saturday, but I will be making the game, and I'm also looking forward to it. So it'll be a good game. How are you, Andy?
It's weird when you call me Andy. It's like hearing somebody call me Andrew or... Yeah.
How are you, Andrew, then?
I'm okay, mate. I'm all right.
Do you only get called Andrew if you're in trouble with your parents or Kat?
Yeah. I also tried to get Kat to start calling me Drew once. A bit like, have you ever seen The American Office? You must have seen that, Mac. I know if Will's listening, he'll be loving that reference. But I did try to get her to call me Drew once, but that just didn't work out. But anyway, no dice. Enough about me. Let's talk football. Let's talk Eastleigh versus Scunthorpe. The game was abandoned after 94 minutes. Marco, you went down. Break it down for me. I don't know what the question is. I don't even know where to start. Let's talk.
Yeah, no, look, I thought very similar to how we started the season. I think we was on the front foot. We had momentum. First half was maybe not cagey, but less chances in the second half where we really did start to turn the screw. Obviously, when the lineup came out, the news with Mason getting injured in the warm-up. So to see Rory starting in net was, I wouldn't say good because Mason's been playing well, but I think Rory also did well. Shape-wise, obviously JB coming in at right back as well. Obviously, barring the injury, I thought he had a fantastic night. I've been quite sceptical of him at centre-half, including probably that Brackley goal late on. I thought he maybe could have done a little bit more. But look, I'm being picky. At right-back, I thought he was fantastic the other night. But no, overall, it was two sides. Look, Eastleigh are an established National League team now. And to go there and control the game and in that second half dominate, barring the last couple of minutes, which seems to be an issue in games. No, I was very impressed. And... yeah, obviously we're going to come on to it, but a lot of standouts and more positive rather than negatives.
Max, we speculated on last week's episode of what the formation would be. I think consensus was it probably would be four at the back, which indeed it was. But surprising to me, it looked more like a 4-2-3-1 with, I would suggest, Carlton on the right, and Beeson on the left, and Roberts kind of in that hole, in that 10 position ahead of Whitehall up top.
Yeah, I think that's right. You did occasionally see the wingers switch, but then I think you see that a lot of times with sides nowadays, no matter what shape they're playing. particularly if they were going to go with a back four, I think playing Belehouan at right back made sense. Particularly, if you'd have been looking at scales there, you would have run the risk of, an aerial bombardment at the back post. So, they obviously, but did stick with four at the back. And like Marco said, I think it worked, especially in the second half. I mean, obviously we're recording this on Thursday night. We don't yet really know all of the next steps and the implications from Tuesday, but I'm nonetheless very encouraged by the performance. Obviously, the equalising goal we considered was disappointing, but there's a lot of positives to take from that night.
Before we analyse the game a little bit more then, Gareth, let's talk about what the next steps will likely be or could possibly be for this fixture. I'm a little bit surprised that as of Thursday night, we've not had a decision yet. The reason why I say that is because, of course, you have the potential suspensions which come into play. Joe Starbuck didn't play on Tuesday night because he was serving a one-match suspension. Therefore, we go into Saturday, certainly go into Friday, not knowing what the outcome will be, i.e., is he suspended or is he not? And as I say, the implications are quite big because if we don't know, then he presumably can't play.
Yeah. It's coming across that way, isn't it? You thought we would have known by now what is happening. But, well, it's just the league, isn't it? Dragging the heels. So yeah, I don't really know what the issue is. It's either going to be replayed or it's not. I think from reading media, both teams would be happy with a draw to keep it as it is. I know fans are wanting it to be replayed, or some fans are thinking that we could probably pick up the 3 points. But then you look at it and think, well, if we lose a point. You don't know how that's going to affect us at the end of the season either. So yeah, great. It's all up in the air, isn't it? Ultimately.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. It is up in the air. Marco, let's talk about what you think should happen then as a next step, because my position is very much, I'm certain Scunthorpe would want to shake hands with a point because it'll likely be a Tuesday night back down in Southampton. I'm almost certain Eastleigh would want to shake hands with a point because they were probably the lesser of the two teams and managed to come out of it with a draw. But in terms of the integrity of the competition, my position is the game should probably be replayed, because if Eastleigh end up making the playoffs by a point, or if they stay up by a point, or if we end up making the playoffs by a point or something, then you'll never know what would have happened in those last 6 minutes. And there could have been a goal either way.
Yeah, no, and I'm like you, I'm surprised we've not heard yet. Which to me just says it's not black and white. If there's rules there has to be rules within this with the league. Obviously, we saw Buxton previously at our place getting called off so late on, and that's when the result obviously wasn't going in our favour, and that's still the full game got replayed. So I thought we'd have found out obviously on Wednesday or today at the latest that it's just it's going to have to be replayed. And look, I know the purists in football say, "Look, let's shake hands. It's a point apiece, and it's travel arrangements." But look, like you said, like I can only assume it's not as simple as that. Otherwise, we'd have heard by now. And so yeah, it's very weird because, like you said, teams need to prepare. We need to know who's going to be in that right back position, or suspensions and injuries. Has it counted? Has it knocked a game off of obviously Horton with his suspension as well? So look, does house goal count? There's all these things that factor in, and no, it's a weird one. I can only assume we'll hear, so it's got to be before Saturday. But yeah, it's a weird one. But like you said, I think Eastleigh especially would shake your hand right now for a point, because I think on the night they were very fortunate to get that goal late on.
Max, then with our three have chucked in our opinion. What's your take on all of it?
I'm perhaps less surprised that we haven't heard a definitive outcome on that, because I think that can be separate to the question of, is Starbuck suspended and does Horton's suspension carry forward? Scunny may well have got guidance from the National League about that in private, and I'm not necessarily sure you'd put up a statement just to say Horton's game doesn't count, Starbuck's game doesn't count, for example. So I'm very, very confident that they'll be informed before Saturday's game at the latest on those kind of matters. Whether or not the game is replayed in full, I don't know. My understanding of the written league rules is that it is open to a decision made by the board of the National League. These things take time. I'm not surprised that bureaucracy lasts a couple of days, particularly if there's, as you say, a little bit of disagreement potentially, or logistics. If you did rearrange it, for example, you've got to find a Tuesday that works. Clubs might disagree over dates. That'll come out in the washing, I'm sure. Like Marco said, I think back to the Buxton one. I think back to one in the EFL recently. I think a few years ago with Donny not 3-0 up away at Charlton, and that got banged for a full replay and they lost. So at least it's a draw. I think if we'd have been 1-0 up when it happened, we'd be screaming for that result to count. So look, we'll see. Time will tell.
The whole momentum of the game, the whole tempo of the game shifted on around about somewhere between 72 and 75 minutes, which was around about the time when Scunny fans decided to start singing. Now, what's all that about? Do you really think that the fans and the crowd can give you that extra 10%? Because it was so obvious watching it at home. It was just as soon as the singing started, the whole tempo changed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, especially with that chant, obviously, Claret and Blue Army, it goes off momentum. So, I mean, if you win a throwing high up the pitch or an attack or a corner, it just seems to gather momentum. And I think at that time, we sort of really had the foot on the game and we were on the front foot and the crowd we could see that and sense something was coming. And again, like you said, it had been a very quiet opening 75, 76 minutes regarding the fans, which is to be expected. It's a Tuesday night in Southampton. It was very disjointed. Not for lack of trying, though. Big shout out to Ryan with the drum and everything. But yeah, no, like I said, we was on the front foot. I think the fans reacted to that, and certainly the players did. And like you said, that substitution of Howe, not that Chadwick had a bad game, but he's made for that role coming on. Well, not even coming on. Obviously, we've seen he can start games well as well. And if you're a fullback and see Deck Howe full of beans, just wanting to get that ball into the net, no matter how, by hook or by crook, he is. He's a typical poacher, and I was going to rip the single hair I had left on my head out when Easton was taking a touch in the 6-yard box before shooting, and no, look, when it trickled over the line and how I ran off celebrating, it were fantastic scenes, and it continued. But look, when that board went up with 8 minutes, it seems to be a pattern of a minute. We've gone from defending so fantastic, brilliantly in 90 minutes, and we just seem to not be able to hold on to that lead late on, whether that's just us sitting back, which obviously happens naturally. Teams do drop deep when we've got that lead to protect. I think over the next couple of games, it's a case of being more clinical and going into that final extra 56 minutes added time inevitably seems to be in games now with a 2-goal cushion would be nice to see. But look, yeah, the fans definitely played their part, and there's no secret. Scunthorpe fans are fantastic. So yeah, it's good to see the players reacting.
Max, was there anybody you wanted to pick out from the game on Tuesday night? I thought Ewing and Roberts looked pretty decent.
Yeah, in particular, Ewing I thought was terrific. I also thought Rory Watson came in and did everything right. Just in terms of the defending, I mean, I think back to the Brackley and to the Halifax games. Obviously, against Halifax, he spent a long time defending. Defended really well. Likewise against Brackley, when the 10 men was the switch, and we defended the ball on the ground really well. But as soon as they put the ball into the box, that was where the goal come. Even more so than those two games, I never really felt that Eastleigh hadn't looked like scoring. That goal really did come out of nothing. So it was a little bit more disappointing and/or frustrating in that sense. Obviously, we still yet to have clean sheet so far this season, and I would normally be inclined to say, right, Saturday's the day. But Wealdstone did put 3 past Southend, so I'm not 100% sure now.
No, I fully agree with what Max just said there. Like, obviously, that Eastleigh goal, when we were 1-0 up going into those closing stages, they weren't even pressing. They had, I mean, Ewing was flicking it over his head going towards the corner flag. We kept the ball well. It just came out of nowhere. And look, I'm not missed it, Meg, but I really do think, obviously, when they got that equaliser, they sort of seemed to get that kick up the ass. And I don't think, obviously, the horrific injury would have happened if it was still 1-0 going into those final minutes. They were on the high and the momentum, and I think they were charged. They were just fully charged up, and that's why you went in for such a strange header. It never looked like winning. And like I said, I don't think that happens if it is 1-0. But like I said, happening so close to the equaliser, everyone's sort of kamikaze mode, just, do you know what I mean, on the attack. So yeah, it was really unexpected. And I remember I was sat next to Ben Maidman, and he says, like, you'd be so annoyed if you was an Eastleigh fan because they're just not even pressing, or you wouldn't have thought they were losing the game. If the scores weren't in the top hand of the screen, you would have thought it was 0-0 or they were defending a lead.
Max, let's talk about that horror collision then between the two players we mentioned earlier. So, I mean, the ball, it kind of comes down the line and then it gets knocked back. And then you've, of course, got Belehouan seems to be the favourite to get the ball. And then Archie Harris kind of comes in with, I mean, I kind of don't want to dig him out because it was such a horror situation, but it didn't seem like a great challenge. And of course, both players coming off pretty terribly. Archie coming off the worst, it has to be said. Initially, football just completely goes out of the window, doesn't it? And your thoughts immediately with both men.
Yeah, of course. And I actually think that the microcosm of that was what happened at the time. So straight away, the refs give Scunthorpe a free kick, which I think was the right decision, because Belehouan's won the ball and then Harris has made contact with him. I also think as well, this is an incident is quite unusual in that usually if you watch an incident live and then you compare it back to the slow motion footage, it looks a worse foul. At the time, obviously the Scunthorpe bench went berserk immediately. There was ructions with somebody on our bench and Kelvin Davis, the Eastleigh manager and former Southampton goalkeeper, and I could see why. You know, I could see why the Scunthorpe bench were very unhappy in those sort of first few seconds. But then, once you see both players, you know, really on the ground, the gravity of the situation hits home. And when you watch it back in particular, you can see just how hard Harris's head hits the ground like that. You know, that's awful, absolutely awful. So I'm just relieved that both of them are okay. And then, you know, obviously, I've got some sympathy with both the zone and the radio coverage for both clubs as well. Like, what do you do? Do you immediately go to black, even if you don't know the gravity of the situation? Do you try and sort of wait and see if they come round? Like that's really, really difficult to try and react to straight away. So I thought they did the right thing in terms of bringing the blankets out, trying to give the players a little bit of privacy, I guess, in a really, really difficult situation. And then it comes over as abandoned, which I know there's only 4 minutes left, but it's the only thing you could do. It was the right decision by the referee to abandon the game. It was the only thing you could do.
Marco, what was the feeling in the crowd at that point? Because obviously you're watching it at home. I am anyway in silo. You kind of go, oh, that's terrible. That's awful. Oh my God, it's really bad. Was there an instant moment there where you gone, this is really bad. This could be life threatening.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this ground seemed to just sort of go eerie. And obviously, no one's really knowing what's going on until the announcement. I mean, we could all obviously see it was a bad injury, especially when the flag came out to cover the players. You only really, I can laugh about it now, because you only see that when there's a horse at races that's been injured. And I thought, oh God, what's happening here? But yeah, no, obviously we left the ground still not. We left the ground with both players still on the floor. So heading back to a hotel, you were just like, what? People were leaving the ground, not even talking about the football. It was more of a, like, God, do you know what I mean? I just hope we're all okay. Obviously, the ambulance managed to get into the car park rather quickly. At which point we knew Harris obviously came off a lot worse. But no, I mean, credit to Eastleigh fans and Scunthorpe fans. We just clapped when the announcement got made, and everyone just made their way out quickly and quietly. There's nothing really you can do. You're powerless in that situation, and you're just wanting nothing serious to be happening to either player. But look, when it first happened, you do fear the worst, and you automatically go to like your Ericsson incidents. Roy Watson looked distraught. Which obviously feeds onto the fans saying how bad is this if the players are seeing the situation and reacting like that. So you do feel the worst. And I went with Will Watton to the away game. I said you almost feel a bit sick. But look, we're talking about it now, and it's great that we can talk about it. And both players are fine. But I do obviously we didn't mention. I do think it was a ball that wasn't there to be won, and I do think it was if both had have got up within 10 seconds after the foul, I do think Harris would have seen a red card.
Yeah, you did say that at the time. Okay, right. So that wraps up our review of the abandoned game at Eastleigh. I won't call it a 1-1 draw because who knows what the result will be. Let's look ahead to Saturday's home game against Wealdstone, and we'll kick it off with our usual Spy in the Camp. Joining me this week is Adam Hills from the StonesCast, which is a dedicated Wealdstone podcast. So thanks for joining us, Adam. How are you doing?
We're all good, mate. I appreciate the invite on. Always good to talk non-league.
Always good to talk non-league. Always good to talk about our respective teams, of course. So how's the start to the season been for Wealdstone?
Yeah, great. I mean, I think if anyone said we'd win our first 3 games and kind of pick up 12 points from 7 games, I think most fans would have kind of snapped your hand off for that return. I don't know how much you guys kind of know about our situation. Obviously, we stayed up by the skin of our teeth at the back end of last year. We changed the management team for I think the 7th or 8th time in about 18 months. There's been a big turnover of players. Sam Cox has kind of returned to the helm, and there was a bit of a public kind of statement about a reduction of the budget quite significantly. So I think most fans came into this season with very much a glass half empty approach. I think many people kind of expected this was the year that we were going to go down. So, you know, for Sam to have picked up, I say 12 points from 7 games and just the style of football, the type of team we are, yeah, things are worryingly rosy at the moment.
You talked about big changes before the start of the season. Of course, you've touched on a lot, but one player that left at the end of the season was, of course, Alex Reid, and bit of a talisman for you. Has he been a big loss?
He has, and I think actually that's where probably the biggest concern was coming into the season was where are the goals going to come from. With his departure, we lost Sam Ashford, who went to Woking towards the end of last year. We had Tyler Walker on loan as well at the back end of last year. And we were kind of left with one striker, Shauna Darkwa, who missed most of last year through injury. And is still relatively unproven at the level. So yeah, massive loss with Alex Reid. And I mean, to be honest, it's still probably the position that if we had a magic wand or a bottomless pot of money, was probably the first place we'd go and strengthen would be an attack.
I can definitely see that. Another position that's maybe not been covered in glory so far this season has been, of course, the goalkeeper situation. Now, Dante Baptiste probably didn't have his best game for Wealdstone midweek, did he?
No, he didn't. It really. I'm sure you've probably seen the first goal, especially where he just took his eyes off the ball and let it trickle in. And it kind of really came at the worst time because we'd just taken the lead. We were very much on the front foot against Southend. And it really checked our momentum and really damaged his and the team's confidence. We recorded our own podcast last night And one of our fans, a goalkeeper in his past, sort of pointed out that probably 4 of the goals that we've conceded this year, he's had a part to play in. He's not the biggest goalkeeper. He's very agile, very good with his feet. But, unfortunately, yes, he has cost us a few goals this year.
I mean, like you said, it's been a really good start to the season. What's the aspirations and ambitions? Because if I'd have spoke to you probably 7 games ago, I imagine you'd have said, please just stay up. Has that changed?
Yeah. Again, it's a question we asked last night. Coming into the season, I think it's also really important to understand the context for which those expectations are set, is that Wealdstone remain, we're not completely part-time, but we're not full-time. We're that sort of hybrid model. From a budget perspective, I think we languish well adrift at the bottom of the budget table. And obviously our facilities, our infrastructure, in comparative to most of the teams in this league are far inferior. But for five years, we've punched above our weight and kind of actually generally been quite comfortable in terms of staying up. But like I say, with the sort of the statements that were made by the board and another change of manager, yeah, we I think most fans came into the season fearing the worst. What we're seeing though is the shoots of a very, very good side. We're probably, I think the thing with us is we're probably 2 players away from being a really good side, but we're only probably 2 injuries or suspensions away from having a side that struggles. We generally have a group of players that are young, hungry. We farm the loan market from London academy clubs, and inherently within that, if we get a good player, they move on very quickly. And obviously, the nature of loan players, they can get recalled. So our squad, wherever we are now, we're potentially only a week away from having a very different outlook. So, yeah, I think the expectation remains. I think most people would say still staying up will be an achievement, and trying to progress off the pitch. We've got hopes to move to a new ground in the next few years. But yeah, until we can kind of close the gap off the pitch, it's always going to be a case of just trying to keep our heads above water.
Finally, then, Adam, hit us up with a score prediction. How do you see this one going on Saturday?
So when I did my National League preview with a couple of my Stones mates, we all 3 of us had Stones to go down, and this was about a week before the season started, and we made some good signings in the lead up. But I also had Scunthorpe down the bottom, but not going down. So I think it'll be a close game. Our away form historically in the National League hasn't been great. We've always relied on home form. Our last visit to Scunthorpe was an absolute disaster for us. We were beaten 4-1 by you, I think, the year you went down.
Yeah.
So there's part of me that goes, I'd happily take a point. After Tuesday's performance, though, and generally throughout the season, although we lost 3 on a row before that, we've been competitive. We've got some very, very tidy players. We're very physical. So there's part of me that thinks we are capable of getting 3 points. I think it's about not being behind after 10 or 15 minutes. So if we can weather, not go behind in the first 10, 15, I'd take a 1-1. I'll go for a 1-1.
Well, that was quite interesting. Gareth, of course, Adam there going for a Wealdstone victory in his predictions. How do you see this game going?
I think it'll be a tight game, close game. They're up there, 6th and 7th, isn't it? They're 6th, we're 7th. They've won 4, lost 3. So I think it will be a close game, but I do feel that us being at home will help, as it always seems to do of late. So I think we'll have the upper hand. I think we will win. I always say I think we'll win, don't I? But yeah, no, I think we'll win. But their defence, they've conceded 10 goals in those 7 games that they've played. So, it's a bit leaky. The defence, they've scored 11, but, I'd like to feel that our defence will be up to the task, whoever's playing at right back. So yeah, no, I just think it'll be a good game. They've got some quick players up front, midfield, skillful players, a few players on loan from league clubs. So, it should be a good game.
Well then, Gaz, who do you think will play at right back?
What do I think will play at right back? I think Max Brogan
Okay.
will play at right back.
So it wouldn't actually shock me if JB is playing. And the reason I say that is because Andy Butler has said on 2 interviews now that the injury was more of a swollen cheek. So he's saying it's a face injury and not a head injury. Now, I believe if it's a face injury, I'm under the impression you don't have to follow the concussion protocol. So, Butler was very adamant to make that point, and I think making that point seems intentional. Like, he's almost like saying, oh, it wasn't a head injury, it was a face injury. So that's why it wouldn't shock me if JB does play. Marco, who do you think will play right back this week?
I think if the game counts as a draw, I think we'll see Starbuck. If not, I think we keep saying Scales is right back, but Butler doesn't seem to fancy it. So I think Max could be right. Obviously, we saw Brogan play there a bit pre-season and stuff as well. So
I think the reason for that is, of course, the game away at Rushall Olympic in January. I think it really highlighted his deficiencies at right back.
Yeah, he's not a right back, and we know that he's the strongest centre mid. But regarding the result on Saturday, I think, God, this will get clipped. I think in the next couple of games at home, I just think with the performances and how we've been playing of late, I think we're due a good win. And I think it could be this Saturday. So I'm going to go either 2 or 3-0 to the Iron. Clean sheet coming as well.
Of course, Marco, Wealdstone's keeper situation, which I talked about there in the Spine the Camp segment, it's not good for them. Their keeper was definitely at fault for the 2 goals in midweek. And I think from what Adam was just saying there, probably been responsible for 4 goals so far this season. So, any Scunny fans complaining about our keeper situation really need to have a look at some teams that are also in and around the playoff mix this season, because it's not looking good for them in that department. Do you think that comes into the strategy then? Because we've talked about the fact that we think teams might be targeting Campbell in terms of crosses and long throws into the box. I know this is professional football, but is there a conversation where you get the ball early, just have a shot?
I mean, speaking of teams with trouble with goalkeepers, we've just been on the phone before, and Dorking have just signed a 54-year-old fan. He's going to play in net on Saturday due to not being able to get an emergency loan. But no, regarding obviously picking out keepers' faults, the goal I saw from midweek or the weekend?
Yeah, so that was the first one.
Yeah, it's just sort of gone under him. It wasn't obviously a cross into a box, or it was a mistake, but it's not like where ours was Campbell not necessarily commanding his box and coming out with those big punches or claiming. It was a case of just probably confidence with shot stopping.
You want to watch the second one then, mate?
Is that what it? Yeah, it's not the one I've seen. But yeah, look, we haven't really got that long throw threat that we've had in previous seasons, obviously with Nicholson and Ogle. So yeah, I don't think that's the route we'll go. But yeah, we've got a lot of height, corners, dead balls. Yeah, look, Butler was on set piece duty in the Jimmy Dean era, so I think Butler will put it on him, and rightly so. Look, teams will do that for us. It's about getting any advantage you can and getting weaknesses, and if their keeper's got low confidence at the minute, it's how we exploit it, which teams would do to us, no problem.
And Max, how do you see this one going on Saturday?
Well, I would probably slightly disagree with what you said. I would be surprised if Belehouan played, even with Butler's comments, partly because it's turnaround time. It's not Saturday to Saturday. It's
sure.
What was it? 6 a.m. on Wednesday. They got home to Saturday morning. When he's doing a fitness test, and again, watch this inevitably get clipped when I'm wrong, but if he was out cold, my understanding is that he would still apply to the concussion protocol, even if he's turning around and saying it's a swollen cheek. And I can understand why it would be a facial injury because of the contact of Harris's head after he's won the header. So that I could believe.
You are absolutely right, though. If he's been concussed, obviously he has to follow the concussion protocol. That's my point. Was it seemed to me like Butler was really adamant to get the point out that it wasn't a head injury.
Yeah, and
I think. Sorry to interrupt. I think the point you're making is he was on the floor for a long time for it not to be a head injury, right?
Yeah, correct. And yeah, I that, and he can still be left with a very bruised or a swollen cheek, or a fracture or something like that. We don't know for sure yet. I think Gareth is right. I think Brogan is the most likely man at right back, assuming if Starbuck's suspension doesn't count. Which if Starbuck's suspension doesn't count, that's just to mean they'll be playing the game. If they call it a 1-1, then Starbuck's back into him. I do sort of fancy us though, particularly at home. As I say, I'm not sure I'd put money on us keeping a clean sheet. But a bit like the Woking game, if you can get a 2-goal cushion, you can afford to ship one and it not be the end of the world. So I'll go for a repeat of the Woking scoreline and go 3-1 Scunny win.
So Max has gone early with our predictions. He's gone 3-1 Scunny win. Gareth, 2 questions for you. What's your score prediction? And second one, any chance of Carlton making a return at wing back?
Just going back to the Butler point about it's a facial injury, not a head injury. Do you think that could be a bit of gamesmanship as well? Give Wealdstone something to think about, by him saying that. So I think that's probably just part of the plan because, like you say, if Belehouan was down for a certain amount of time on the floor, then it's probably going to be something to do with his head, isn't it? If he has been knocked out.
Yeah.
So I think that might be a bit of gamesmanship. But I think for the score, I'm going to go 3-1.
3-1?
No, in fact, I'm going 4-1.
4-1. Again, a repeat. And a repeat of the last time we played them, it was 4-1, I believe. And Carlton at right back, yes or no?
No.
No chance?
No chance.
I think that's harsh. I mean, I'm not sure I'd go for it, but...
I'm not saying he's not done a good job when he has played there, but no chance.
There's a difference between putting him at right wing back, glorified right back, in a back five when you're trying to see the game out and you've got no alternatives, and especially away from home, and then going, right, it's a home game, it's 90 minutes, we want to win the game. It's a flat back four, and we're putting a lad who
is a centre forward.
Lest we forget, there was a big thing about, no, he's a striker, he's not a winger, he's a striker. And then saying, actually, I think you'll find he's a right back, lads.
Maybe Dion Dublin on the left?
Can Carlton play the Doob? I don't know. I would be really surprised, come what may, if he starts at right back. But a bit like Wealdstone shipping 2 bad goals against Southend. If you win the game, who cares?
Marco, how do you see this one going down in terms of a prediction?
2-0 Iron. Max is sort of top into not putting a clean sheet down now, but like you said,
don't listen to me. Listening to me is always a bad idea.
A lot is coming down to the clean sheet regarding at right back. I mean, we never really talked about JB at right back. I thought it was fantastic on Tuesday before the injury. A couple of times we actually got to see his raw pace and just how quick he was, which is something we hadn't really seen yet in the previous games. So yeah, and look, he's got that physicality, something Butler obviously likes, joining Boyce, Evans, and then obviously Belehouan as well. You're essentially playing the height of 3 centre halves.
And then, when Horton comes back in, if he slots back in at left back, I mean, that's a gigantic back four, isn't it?
Yeah, huge. I mean, look, it gives you options. You've got Tyler and Horton who can cover left back. You've got, obviously, Starbuck, Barrows when he comes back in, and knowing that JB can play there.
And Ollie Rose.
Ollie Rose, obviously, which is what we saw a lot of him last year. And then you're back 2, we've got Boyce, Evans, Rose, and also obviously JB who's a centre back to cover, and Rose again. So yeah, it's good to have options in that defence. Obviously on the pre-season podcast, we're talking like it's been built to play 5 at the back, which isn't in Butler's armory this year. He's not even entertaining it. So yeah, which is good to see because it's working, it's getting results. But big shout out to JB. But I think I'd be surprised if we see Carlton right back because I think he's been playing really well up the top end of the pitch. So I won't be surprised to see him get started again.
Okay, I'm going to go for a 0-0, obviously.
Oh my God.
One day.
Who
One
wants
day.
my
Is this going to be like that entire year and a half when before every game Marco had Rory McCall score first?
It came off.
But that's the thing, isn't it? If you're wrong 45 times, who cares? If you're right once.
Barra's just saying this because he's in a mood because Slovakia beat Germany.
Leave it out.
And they're bottom of the group. I believe they're below Luxembourg in the table.
Dead bottom.
Yeah, and they've got little Wim Friedemeister up front as well. So
that's a great reference. I love it.
We try and get one in every single week on this podcast, and we never fail. Last week it was yourself with a Tonka as a sixpence. Right, before we move on to our FPL update, we caught up this week with Rob Lewis, who is the chair of the Unity Group. Now, apologies in advance for this segment because we did have some audio issues. So I am reliably informed that Gareth has done some magical work and made it barely listenable. Because
I know we're sponsored by Hole in the One, but there's no magic.
No magic. Definitely no magic.
If this next segment even makes the broadcast, then Gareth has done some wonders because it was tragic from my end. Rob was great. I was shocking. I don't know what was going on with my audio, but so if this next segment, if you were able to listen to any of it, then well done, Gareth. And as I say, try your best to enjoy what we can salvage. Joining me this week is chair of the Unity Group, and put more information about what it is that they do. But ahead of Saturday's fixture against Wealdstone, which is, of course, Unity Day. Rob, thank you for joining us. First of all, what's the Unity Group?
Thanks for having me, Barra. The Unity Group is a group of supporters who raise funds for Scunthorpe United and match tickets for people in need through football cards, auctions, raffles. We also put events on like quizzes, Easter party, Christmas party. It's basically just everyone getting together to help the club when it needs it its most.
And yourself, you're involved in, I believe, the voluntary work as well at the club. Were you down there today?
Yes, I was down there today cleaning the windows in the directors' boxes because there's plenty of jobs down there that need doing.
This day is, of course, Unity Day. What is?
So we've been talking to the club with other fans groups, and we mentioned that we'd like to be sponsors of a match. So we're invited to be match ball sponsors and to have the hut in the corner at Crumble Corner so we can reach out to fans, tell the fans what we do, hopefully attract some new members, and just get our name out there a little bit more. And hopefully it'll encourage other people to try and support the club by playing the football cards and getting involved with the things that we do and to push the club forward.
Got there about the membership. What are the current numbers?
I think we're at about 70 members at the moment, and on our fundraising page on Facebook there's over 400 people that follow that, and the Scunthorpe United Unity Group is at about 130 members now online, so it's slowly building up.
If people want to join the Unity Group, how can they do that?
So you can get a membership form from any of the committee members. We'll be at Crumble Corner this Saturday. You can reach out to us on Facebook and we'll get a form to you, and you pay £10 membership, you get a pen, a pin badge, a membership card, and you're contributing to sustainability at the club.
So whilst I've got you, Rob, let's talk a little about football for a couple of minutes. So how pleased are you with the start of the season so far?
I think it's been brilliant. It's everyone was worried that he'd go back to 5 at the back, but he's come out with an attacking formation. The midfielders are brilliant. I'm absolutely over the moon with the quality that he's brought in, and it's looking good for us this year. I said pre-season, if we finish 10th or there or thereabouts, I'd be happy. From the start of the season, I can see us maybe trying to get into the playoffs.
We always do our predictions pre-game on this podcast, so I'll give you the opportunity, Rob. How do you see Saturday's going?
3-1.
3-1
home win.
3-1 home win. There we go. Right, Marco, we just about scraped through that. Thank you, Gareth, for your work there. Let's have a little look at the FPL League. Have you got it to hand?
I do have it to hand. And there's been all change at the top. I mean, Sam Allen has gone top with Vert's Nightmare. Our very own Tyler Denton has dropped to 3rd place, but there's not much in it. Again, obviously, it's still early days.
You've got to give a shout out to Mike.
Mike, moved up to 2nd. Easy come, easy go. I don't know if that's in relation to our Eze or the now Arsenal Eze.
It's got to be ours. Screw Arsenal.
I don't know. I won't mind the Arsenal one. But there is a name that went under the radar. Obviously, we've been talking about the names this week, so there will be a prize for the best one. And it's Robbie Scorer, who's moved into ninth, whose name is Swedish House Mafia.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Has took my eye with tonight. But yeah, no, looks, it was a pretty low scoring week. Some idiots used a chip already for their free hit, which didn't.
I've used my wild card and my free hit.
Oh, I was joking. I've used my free hit, but I didn't think anyone was stupid enough to use two.
Oh yeah. Since the ante has been upped with the forfeit of being the mascot next season, I am, this is serious, mate. This is serious.
It
has to be Max. It has to be Max.
That's the rules. But yeah, no, look, again, I know we say every week, we've now got over 318 people in the league. So yeah, just tell your friends, anybody who watches the Premier League, or even if you don't watch it like Barra, as you can see. Yeah, definitely get joined in, and that's a good bit of fun.
A couple of other shout outs then. We'll give Tom Harker one, moving up to 61st. So well done, Tom. I know he's one of your mates. We've got Tom Douthwaite all the way up to 158. I think he was nearly 200 before the week started, so that's a bit of a recovery. Oh dear. Who's that down in 191? It's our very own Gareth Holden. And of course, we've got...
He's done three others, though.
We've got Craig
he's doing better than me and you.
I know, mate. We've got Craig Mallet up to 219th, David Taylor in 221, and we'll pick another one out at random. Let's give... What's going on with Mike Jackson? You might be right, Max. I think he's played to lose.
I was always right. I was always right. Mike has clearly decided that he wants to win the wooden spoon.
or he's just been very money conscious. I'd like to see his budget.
He got no points this game week.
Yes, but I bet he's got a very healthy bank. I don't think there's anybody. There's probably not £20 million worth of players.
I haven't even heard of some of these names.
No, I haven't.
Correct. He's picked the cheapest players in all of the positions, even if they've since been sold.
It's a bold move.
Yeah. Imagine finishing bottom to him.
You'll have to let us know.
Right, guys. Anything else before we call it to a close?
No, I think we're good.
What about you guys?
I'm okay. I'm good.
You delivering the match ball on Saturday?
Not this Saturday, no. No, I'm giving it a miss. Giving someone else a chance. Maybe someone from the Unity group. I don't know.
No, I want it to be you. I think you were perfect.
It won't be me.
Right, that's it then. Thank you for listening to your latest episode of the Iron Hour podcast. We'll see you next week. Up the iron.